As of this 11th day of December of 2022, the Idaho police in Moscow are clueless as to who murdered the four college students on November the 13th, 2022. They have demonstrated by their own declaration that they are incompetent. Initially, they stated it was not a targeted attack, and then they revised the story saying that it was a targeted attack. I am of the opinion that the Idaho Moscow Police Department is incompetent and capable of properly investigating this case because they have approached this case with the intent on not creating panic of the people in that town in order to retain the people in the town. When you approach an investigation trying to quell the panic of the public in your area for the sake of keeping their dollars there, you are incompetent to investigate and to continue to investigate. This approach has caused them to dismiss and clear individuals as suspects that should be viewed as suspects. I'm going to give my thorough analysis of who I believe the killers are and why. Before I go there, I'm going to roll some clips from News 13, News Nation, and Inside Edition. I have to give them credit because I'm using together more than 30 seconds of their clips. So watch these clips and hear my analysis.
Police now revealing that before a 911 call was made, the two surviving roommates of a deadly rampage that killed four students summoned friends to the off-campus home near the University of Idaho, telling authorities they thought someone on the second floor had, quote, passed out and was not waking up.
And now a neighbor who lives near the house says he heard a woman screaming the night of the murders. 30-year-old Enon Harsh, a chef, says he thinks he heard the scream at around 4 a.m., but he quickly dismissed it as noise coming from a party. I didn't think anything of it. After what happened, I've definitely had second thoughts. Maybe it was not a party sound.
Now, based on this new information, where one of the neighbors claimed that he believed he heard a scream that morning of the day of the murders on November the 13th, 2022, but he dismissed it thinking it was a party. And he's saying after hearing that there was a murder at the residence, he reconsidered that he may have heard a scream. Now, this leads me to the two surviving roommates who are presumed to have been asleep, too drunk to hear, presumably slept through this ordeal. Some people claim that they stayed at the house and it's hard to hear something upstairs or downstairs. But yet, this neighbor allegedly could hear a scream. I believe the neighbor heard a scream. I believe that the two surviving residents heard a scream as well. So you have Maddie and Kaylee sleeping in the same bed. It appears at first law enforcement didn't want to release this information. You also have Zana and Ethan sleeping in the same bed. Kaylee and Maddie door was locked, was found to be locked. So I must assume that Ethan and Zana didn't have a lock on their door. But when I look at the two surviving roommates, I have to ask myself two questions. If they went to the second floor and found Ethan and Zana, why would they say that one of them wouldn't wake up? One of them, they saying one, but they clearly in the same room. I'm assuming they was in the same bed. That's a rational assumption that they was in the same bed. When you listen to the clips that I just played, it is saying that one of the surviving roommates, or both of them, was saying that one of the persons wouldn't wake up. Well, if one of them wouldn't wake up, why would you not try to wake the other person up? It would seem that you would say they were both not waking up. But let's be clear, people. The police described the scene as a mess. So this requires people to believe that when these two surviving roommates came into the room where Ethan and Zana was at, that they didn't see this gruesome scene. They didn't see the blood. They didn't see the stab wounds. They didn't see what was obvious. And then they called friends over. Hours later, then they called 911. So I want to focus on when these two survivors went into this room, are we to believe that they did not see the gruesome scene that the police described? If we asked ourselves that question, we would say they had to see it. So if we be honest with ourselves, what would a rational person do? So if they went in the room and saw this gruesome scene and they called their friends over, where is this fainting coming from when they called 911? Why are they fainting now? That, in my opinion, was an act. It was an act. By the way, before I go any further, like I tell you, this is my theory, my opinion. I'm not afraid of the Moscow police. In Idaho, you won't stop me from my theories. You don't scare me. So get ready and eat this for breakfast. Once again, when you look at the picture that the two surviving roommates say they was trying to wake one of the persons up in a room, which was either Ethan or Zana. And so they called their friends over. So at this point in the game, we are required to believe that they didn't see the blood, the defensive wound, the gruesome scene. So I'm going to operate with the assumption that they saw clearly what was going on with them, that they were stabbed, they was dead or dying. They clearly saw this. What did they do? They didn't faint. They called some friends over. So at this point, we see that they are not surprised or shocked because they see the scene, all right? Call the friends over. Hours later, I believe it was past three hours that they called 911. And yet, we supposed to believe when they was trying to talk to 911, they fainted. I don't believe that. Now, I also believe that the Idaho Police Department are covering up that they refused to release the 911 phone call because it shows that these two roommates are suspect in what they're saying. That's just my opinion. Now, everybody keeps assuming that these two surviving roommates slept through this ordeal. Somehow was drunk, could block it out because of college. I don't believe that they blocked it out. I believe that they knew it was happening. They was either afraid. Hold up. They wasn't afraid. I'm operating under the theory that they knew and helped planned it. Okay? Because I'm basing this theory and its conclusion on the fact that if the police describe the scene as they describe it, and you open the door, go in the room, and you're trying to wake them up, they're not waking up, you snatch the cover, you're going to clearly see. Perhaps you didn't even have to pull the cover back. You can see the gruesome scene. So, that fainting, calling 911 in shock, you don't get an Oscar with me. Because I don't believe that. And so, when you look at the fact that they waited hours, I believe 3 or more hours to call 911, they had to be cleaning up the scene. They had to been cleaning up the scene. This accounts why they can't find evidence that they need. Now, you would think that they would be looked at by the Idaho Police Department as very, very suspicious, as well as the people that they called over. We don't know what was moved, what was taken from the crime scene, because at that time, the two roommates contaminated it with the other friends that came over. People, you can ask anybody. If you see something like that that's so gruesome, why are you calling your friends and not 911? And why are you doing it hours later? Even after your friends arrive, why are they not prompt to call 911? This is why the police can't find anybody. Because everybody that they cleared is clearly involved. That's just my opinion. Now, you want to take the people focus on this white car. You don't have proof that the white car is connected. You just say that they could have information. Well, why would you conclude that somebody who was driving this white car would have information that these two surviving inmates would not have, who didn't call 911 immediately, who didn't faint when they seen it, but all of a sudden it's hysterical and fainting when they making a 911 call? And this requires me to believe that once the two roommates could not arouse Ethan or Xana, that they went upstairs. Why are you calling or texting on the phone when if they not, I'm not going to text anybody under that situation, going right up to that third floor, and you're going to check and they're going to know the door locked. So evidently their actions indicate that they already knew what happened, because their actions are not in line with rationale or a rational response. Their actions are contrived, manipulative, and fit for cinema. Based on what I'm seeing and based on the facts, no forced entry. Somebody knew the layout. The two roommates had their door locked. The four victims didn't have their door locked. So one would have to question the two surviving roommates' story. But in my belief, the police did not want to question their story because they don't want the world to know that Idaho has the two killers right there. And when I seen these two lone survivors on TV for the first time, I saw something that told me that they are the killers. They are in on the killing. So, for all you news folks, for all you social media folks that's afraid to look at it like I have just explained it to you, you need to shut down shop. Because if you're scared, you're not a real publicist. You're not a real investigator. You're not a real news outlet. I'm telling you right now, the key to this murder is these two lone survivors. I don't believe them. Their story smell foul. I call it foul. And my name is Speak Van Holding. Good morning to all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button and like. But I ain't cut no corners. It's raw right here. It's hot right here. Good morning. Y'all have a great day.